The popularity of podcasts is changing the way we dispense information and communicate with the public. The podcasting industry has grown exponentially, and as we make our way through 2025, it shows no signs of slowing down. According to Forbes, the podcasting industry has approximately 540 million listeners worldwide. Forbes also says that an increasing number of brands and businesses are using podcasts as a primary vehicle within their marketing strategy. By the same token, our friends over at LinkedIn report that less than 7% of all podcasters make it past 100 episodes. This is all food for thought for my friend Vince Quinn, who is the co-founder and creative director of SBX Productions, where he helps businesses start podcasts and use them as a key leverage point in their marketing strategy. He's also passionate about helping podcast hosts unlock their hosting potential. Quinn says that hosting is a skill and is in the art of conversation. He should know a thing or two about having quality podcast conversations. He started his career as a radio intern and quickly built himself into a nationally syndicated radio host. And now he coaches others to unlock a skill that is in plain sight, the art of hosting a podcast. And Quinn joined me this week to have a deep dive discussion on everything podcasts, what makes them successful, why it's important to not blow past the time clock when you produce a podcast, and so much more. If you're a business owner, executive, or a civilian who wants more exposure by launching and maintaining a following of a podcast, this conversation is one you can't afford to miss. So, without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super excited to talk about a mutual interest between the two of us in podcasting, my friend. Great to see you, and thanks so very much for being here.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. So, Vince, you tell me that podcasting is all about the art of having conversations, and people need to tap into their hosting potential if they want to run a business successfully. They really need to think about launching a podcast, my friend. So tell me why you believe that, and why is hosting a hidden potential for business owners, my friend?
Yeah, so hosting, it unlocks the door to everything. I mean, when you think about the day-to-day kinds of conversations that you have, what do you want? Well, you want to be well-informed. You want to have thoughtful things to say. You want to have a good dialogue back and forth with the person that you're talking with and build a real connection. And as much as that's the day-to-day stuff that we want, that's all we do in podcasting. It's the whole job, right? Like, you want to build good relationships, ask good questions, drive that conversation somewhere, and as a result, you inform the audience and build a relationship with them. Like, they see that, they feel that energy, and it means a lot. So to be able to do that just day to day and do that through hosting, and to be able to reflect that in a business where it's who you are and what you're about and what matters to you, and how you can help people, for especially for me from that business side of like, hey, I started this business because I wanted to help people in podcasting, then, I'm going to talk a lot about podcasting and the ways that people can get that help. But you have to be thoughtful in terms of what you're going to talk about, why you want to talk about it, who you're talking to, and make sure that all of that lines up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say that sometimes we take podcasting for granted, my friend, and it's something that can affect every aspect of our lives. So I'm wondering if you can dive deeper into that concept for me, my friend.
Oh yeah, it's a part of everything because it is. I mean, just the other day. So I'm going to a family event just last weekend, and I'm talking to my wife. It's her side of the family, and as I'm going through, I'm saying, well, what was going on with this cousin recently? Did they have any major updates? And like along the way, the whole idea was I want to go up into this conversation prepared. I want to know what they've been up to. There's a lot going on. It's a lot to keep track of. I'm running a business and figuring a lot of things out. So I'm not on Instagram all the time. I'm not always keeping track of what people are up to. I need that reminder. And that's preparation, right? Like that's affecting how I engage with family for parties and holidays and birthdays and all the fun stuff. Like that's going into it knowing, oh yeah, I am thinking about these people. I do want to be caught up on what they've been up to, and then I can move that further and have that stronger connection because I've thought about them and I'm asking them things that are relevant to who they are and what their lives are. So that kind of thing is important. From a dating side, I always think about it from first dates, right? Because it's like you want to have a good conversation. If you sit down with somebody and they just talk about themselves, that's not interesting. Right? Like you want to talk about yourself a little bit. You want to have a back and forth. You want to have a real conversation. So how are you listening to people? How are you engaging with your audience? And that's the kind of thing that's really important day to day. So yeah, again, like these are all these hosting skills that go into running a great podcast, but it's just as important every day and people feel the same effects.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vince, you also say it's important not to blow past the clock when you host a podcast and have the ability to, ramble on endlessly, my friend. So tell me why it's important to not blow past the clock when you host a podcast.
Yeah, so you want consistency in the kinds of content that you make. That's really what it boils down to. And if you're saying, well, I'm typically it's going to be a 25-minute show, but today I'm going to go for 45 minutes. And sometimes I might even go an hour. It's just as long as I feel like the conversation's good, then that's going to be the episode. And can you have some flexibility? Sure, right? I don't want to be overly strict about it. But if you're not consistent in any way, shape, or form, then it becomes harder for people to figure out when to listen to your show. If I know that an episode is 20 minutes long or 10 minutes long or 40 minutes long, I know when I can go through that episode. If I've got dinner that I'm going to cook, that might take me 45 minutes. So I can put on a podcast and I'll know reasonably, hey, here's some shows that I can go through and listen all the way through in 45 minutes. If I'm going for a walk in the morning, I can listen to all of it in those 45 minutes. And then on the other side, for your audience, it can be, hey, when they're in the car, your average car ride is maybe 20 minutes. So they'll be able to listen to your episode in the car. Like, that's great. But if it's 20 minutes one day and an hour the next, it's not so easy for them to remember you and when you fit into their lives. So the more consistent you can be with the clock, the easier it is to work your way and be a consistent part of other people's routine.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I know that you're currently the co-founder and creative director of SBX Production, my friend, where, as you mentioned, you help businesses start podcasts and leverage it as a key part of their marketing strategy, my friend. So tell me about your company and how you're helping people have success in the podcasting industry, my friend.
Yeah, 100%. So everything that I do is, helping these business owners realize their vision in podcasting. And I think it comes down to a lot of times the problem is most businesses are following an entertainment blueprint. And what I mean by that is they think, okay, well, I'm going to start the show for my business. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a lot of listeners for it. I want a big, broad audience. I want everybody to tune in. And when I do that, I'm going to have this big audience from all these guests that come in and promote it and they share with their audience. So I'll grow. And then I'm going to get sponsors on the show. And that's how I'll make money. But when you're a business, that is the complete wrong way to think about it. Because the whole thing is all of the content that you're making should be reflective of the business that you have and the problems that you solve and the people you solve those problems for. So that's what your message needs to be, because that's your audience. If I'm going to do a show, if I'm a local business, for example, and I only help people, for me, I'm in Philadelphia. So if I only help people in the Philadelphia area within 50 miles, right? Then if somebody's in Iowa and they're listening to the show, they don't matter. You know what I mean? Like I can't help them. It's nice that they get some information out of it, but as a business owner, I'm making this content to grow my business. And so, I need to be mindful of that. And that's the kind of thing that I'm always coaching people on, is think about who you are and what your business is and who you serve and how is your content relentlessly focused on those things so you can build the relationships with the right people. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Vince, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the top 3 questions that any business owner or entrepreneur should ask themselves before starting a podcast. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, so number one is, why are you doing this, right? Like, what do you want to get out of the show? So if you're going to decide that, hey, I'm starting a podcast, great, but what do you want to get out of it? If your answer is, I want to get a lot of downloads, then as a business owner, you need to ask yourself, what do you want those downloads to do, right? Why are you getting all of these people to listen? Why are you building this audience? So you have to think of that. And then on the other side, it's, how does this connect to your business? What about the content that you're making is clear to who you are and what you serve? And 3, do you know who your audience is? What does that look like? Because if you don't have and sometimes people have the wrong answer up front, and that's okay. Like, they have a clear vision of it's somebody, I think it's somebody in a certain age range that has a certain position in a certain industry, and I can go help those people. Hey, awesome. Let's go for it. But if it turns out over time, because the industry's changed, or the economy's changed, or the industry, whatever, your life changes. There's a lot of things that can change where you want to put your energy for the business. Then that's fine. But you should have an idea of who your audience is at all times, and you should be very relentlessly talking to them. So those are the 3 things. You need to know why you're doing it. You need to be talking about your business and make sure that's connected. And you got to be making sure you're talking to the people who need to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Vince, as a professional and motivational speaker myself, my friend, I find podcasting as a terrific vehicle to grow brand as a speaker. And I'm curious to get your thoughts specifically on why you think public speakers should consider either starting or going on a podcast to grow their brand. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, so let's start with both tracks. Great question, by the way. So one track is being a guest on shows. And the beauty of that is, in a lot of ways, it is like public speaking, where if you have a certain speech that you give, then you get to talk about that track constantly, right? You're pitching yourself to discuss that issue and that kind of problem and that kind of story every single time you're applying to go on a show. Hey, I want to talk about this. This is my message. This is my story, and I think it'd be a fit for your audience. And now you're getting rep after rep after rep of talking about that message and refining what you do, right? It can be a little more repetitive because the listener is changing every time, because you're on different podcasts with different audiences. So that's a good way to make a lot of practice, get in front of a lot of people, or see if people are willing to respond to that. Because if you make the pitch to a lot of different people and they're not willing to have you on, then maybe it's something where your message could be a little bit clearer, or you're pitching it to the wrong kind of audience. And so as you're refining, hey, this is what I want to talk about, but it doesn't seem to be connecting for these podcasts, then yeah, maybe there's something you can adapt that will help you with the public speaking that you do. And then on the other side, I think it comes down to having a podcast is people heard you speak, and that's as a guest on a show, that is as somebody who's on stage, and to say, hey, you enjoyed this conversation. Well, I'm talking about issues like this all the time. And so if this is what you needed to hear, and if you're talking to rooms of people, then you're going to have a few people that are interested in what you say, and will be engaged with it. Then, hey, this is where you can keep up with me all the time. And so to maintain that attention, that's the beauty of a podcast. It's something you're already good at. You know how to structure a conversation. You know how to deliver the information. You've established a lane that you're in. You can connect with the right kind of audience. And so now that next natural step is, hey, well, if you liked all this, check me out all the time. So yeah, podcasting is a beautiful way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, Vince, to get your thoughts on this. A statistic recently released some statistics that amplify the growth of podcasting within the United States. They report that back in 2006, only about 1/5 of the American population knew about podcasting, and now it's up to about 85%. And more than 160 million Americans consume podcasts every month, my friend, according to this report. So I'm curious to ask you, when it comes to entrepreneurs and really drilling down on what they should focus on, because once you start a podcast, sometimes you have a tendency to talk about everything relating to your business. So I'm curious about how you help people really nail down on their most effective message in order to get the most value out of their podcast, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so it's a lot of business analysis. It's what's working for you, what's not, where do your customers come from, what do those customers look like? I mean, I had a conversation with somebody a couple of months ago, and it was actually an episode of my podcast. It was a live coaching call on the show. It was a guy named Kurt Busch, and Kurt has a business where he does coaching. And I was talking to him a little bit about what the show had been, and he was bringing on a lot of people who were, in a sense, competitors to him. They were other coaches and things that did work like his. And sure, they had good information about coaching and ways to build yourself as a leader, but it wasn't something that was advantageous to the business, because there was plenty of stuff that Kurt or his co-host and business partner, they could have covered those topics themselves. They didn't need a guest to come on and discuss that for them. They had information about it anyway. But they had these guests on out of habit. And so as we're digging in, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, one, you're not sharing your message for your business. You're letting other people say it on your show for their business. And once we dug even deeper, then it was, okay, well, it turns out that a lot of your clients are coming from workshops, and that's a good business for you to get in front of a large group of people and build relationships there, and then not only do the workshops, but turn that into one-on-one coaching. And so as we built all of that out, it was this, it was a 40-minute conversation to figure all of these things out. But that's what the process looks like. Like, that's what it takes. You have to be reflective. And I think when you're a business owner, you're so caught up in the day-to-day, and you're making all of these different decisions. And since you're in it so much, you don't have that outside perspective. But when you get somebody that can step in and ask some simple, high-level questions, it really does lead to deep self-reflection. And that's a cool thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And, but I also wanted to talk to you about consistency of podcasting. Our friends over at LinkedIn say that only about less than 7% of all podcasters and people in business who start a podcast surpass 100 episodes, my friend. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on the importance of consistency. And Forbes also tells us that over 560 million people listen to a podcast every month globally, my friend. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on both the importance of consistency in podcasting and the explosion in popularity in the industry, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So when it comes to consistency, part of it is, especially from that business side, it's your marketing. You always want to be marketing your business, right? So that's everything, and that's why it's so important to make the content consistently. Let alone for the podcast and building the audience for the show itself. But it's really more of the idea that, hey, you're getting clips that come out of that podcast that can fuel your social media posting. You're getting a transcript of that show that can help you write newsletters. And you need that. You need to connect with people on all of these different platforms. There's not necessarily a single answer that's going to fully secure your business, right? You want to contact people in as many different ways as you can. And podcasting is just a great central way to do it because you organize your thoughts, you get to explain it in full detail, and people can absorb that then in whichever way that you want to present it. So that's the beauty of it. That's why the consistency is important, because now you can be on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, newsletter, Facebook, just anywhere, YouTube and all the podcast platforms every single week, which means every single week you're getting the opportunity to build trust with people. You're getting them to understand your specific message and what makes you unique, and convert those people that maybe kind of like you or find you interesting. You can slowly convert them into super fans. And that's what it's all about. So that's why the consistency part of it is so big, Kevin. And then like the other side, when you're talking about, and now I'm losing track for a second. Hold on. I've got this. Oh, the explosion in listenership. See, I told you.
The popularity, yeah. That was the second part of the question, yeah.
There we go. So from the popularity standpoint, the beauty of it is that so many more people are embracing it, which means that, you can get access to pretty much anybody in terms of like a demographic or a psychographic. So people who, are a certain thing of age, ethnicity, location, position, whatever, or psychographic, like the kinds of things that they're into, what their hobbies are, their just life outlook, whatever it is. So to know that everybody is really starting to listen to podcasts and embrace it, your access is incredible. So that's the beauty of being able to be specific. Those communities are out there that want to hear your very specific message, and they're bigger than you think. So that's why you should be focused on, hey, how do I make a great show that is truly unique for this specific group of people, for these specific problems I solve? It's going to make your life easier. It's going to make you connect better with those kinds of people, and you're going to get more business as a result of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Vince, I'm going to share just a little bit about myself, my friend, and I believe that personal experiences make better podcasts if you live through a situation. So, Vince, I was born with cerebral palsy, and I found out at the age of 9 that I wouldn't be able to walk without assistance for the duration of my life because of the severity of my disability. And 40% of people who have a disability live in social isolation. So I started this podcast because I wanted a sense of social connection and an outlet, my friend. And I'm almost 5 years in, and I've produced over 1,200 episodes now for this podcast. But I'm curious to ask you about the importance of authentic personal experiences and how they can make you a better podcaster.
Yeah, personal experiences are everything, right? Like it's how you view and see the world. It matters so much. And that's the stuff that you should be willing to share. If you get on a podcast and everything is just, especially from a business side, if it's just like strictly data, you might have great information. Nobody's taking it in, and nobody's thinking of you for that information. They want personality, they crave personality, and that's your differentiator. Anybody can provide information, right? But Opinions are something that set you apart. The stories are things that set you apart. And that's what matters. So that's why you do all of this. That's why it's all personality driven these days, your personal brand. So as much as you can lean into that, that's really important. And then from the other side, I mean, look, 1,200 plus episodes is incredible. So like, good for you. That's amazing. And to think about also the experience of just like all the interviews that you get in and what it's like to do anything around the show, to put it together and book people and promote it. Like, you get better at all of those things too. And that's life. It's putting energy and time and commitment into what you do, getting better at that, wanting to get better at it, having personal passion that drives it, and being able to present that with other people who appreciate it and want to connect with you. So yeah, I mean, I love everything that you're doing. That's incredible.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend, and I'm also curious to ask you, what are the biggest mistakes that people make when they get into podcasting, my friend, and what's the best way to reverse them, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so a lot of it is something that we talked about a little bit earlier, where when people get in, they're thinking, hey, it's this entertainment track for a business, right? It's like, hey, I'm just going to be as big and broad as possible, and I'm hardly going to talk about my business at all, if at all. And so, doing the opposite and being niche and being personal and being towards a very target crowd, that's one of the big things. The other side of it is, it's from an entertainment show. It's trying to build this big show, but not being worried about building a great show. And I think that's the goal first. People, because there's so many shows out there, I think you lose the perspective of what a great show can be. Because to be as good as a lot of your other people that are just out there and doing a show, yeah, I mean, you get early into podcasting and have a big personality and have some opinions, and early on you feel like you're better than a lot of people. But ultimately, to build a great show, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Having great openings, great hooks, having great topics consistently, and segment structure, and rotating segments, and being a good interviewer, and promoting the show well, knowing what a good clip is. And so people are always caught up in the big picture of what the numbers are and what the celebrity is and how big is this show, and not thinking enough about, how good is my show? Is it better than other shows in my lane? What does it take to be as good or better than those shows? And then how do I let people know so that when they hear it, they know? And that's the goal. So that's the kind of thing that people, again, they just don't think about what makes the show great. And obviously that's the foundation of a great show.
Yeah, I think during my personal podcasting journey, I've always felt that being constantly curious and empathetic towards if you're interviewing someone, being curious about their life and their story and their background makes for authentic conversations. And I'm curious to ask you about the importance of being curious as a podcasting guest, and what makes a podcasting interview truly authentic in your mind. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, yeah. Curiosity is a great starting point for both of that, as a guest and as a host of what makes you a great interviewer. I mean, if you're not really interested in the person that you're talking to, don't have them on, right? Like, that's what it's all about. You should have something that you want to talk to this person about and be engaged with them in, especially because, hey, it's only it's a 20-minute show. It's a 40-minute show. It's an hour-long show. Like, it's not like you're asking people where, when I came from radio, it was a 4-hour show. So sometimes people would do these, quick interviews, 15-minute interviews, just to kill time. They really weren't interested in how good it was. They were just like, I need a break. And I'm going to have this beat reporter come on and talk baseball for 10 minutes. So that kind of stuff matters. And people feel that. So yeah, you need curiosity. As a guest, you don't see as much curiosity, honestly. I think it's a really interesting question, because usually people come on and they're just saying, how can I talk about what I do? And how do I get that message out? But the idea of how can I be curious as a guest and learn more from the host? It's not all that often. I occasionally I'll say something that I've done that's been helpful in that way once in a while is, for example, I was on a show once and they had a really interesting backdrop. And it was like this giant barrel that was sitting behind them, like this big oak barrel. And you just don't normally see that in a podcast background. I asked them about it, and they went on for a couple of minutes about like, yeah, it's some old whiskey barrel, and I came across it from this way, and it was just one of those things where it built a good relationship. I think it was good for both of us. Like they get to show off a little bit of personality, and it adds something dynamic to the show. And that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't curious and willing to ask. But yeah, a lot of times people just think my role as a guest is to answer questions. But once in a while, when the moment's right, you should ask some. I love that.
Absolutely. And Vince, for a moment, I want to talk about you, my friend, because I know you started your radio career as a radio intern, and you worked your way up to a nationally syndicated radio host, my friend. So I'm curious to learn more about your journey and some of the top tips you've learned about improving your ability to host and coach people when they want to launch a podcast, my friends. So I'm going to give the floor to you to talk about yourself for a few minutes, my friend.
Yeah, so the basic idea is I got into radio in the promotions department. And I was handing out T-shirts at bars is really what I did. It was sports radio, so that was the job. And over time, I worked my way into different jobs in the promotions department, had more responsibility, spent more time around broadcasts because I was doing the promotional part of these broadcasts at locations, and worked my way over there, asking questions, wanting to know how things worked. And just creating opportunities for myself. And yeah, eventually that led to hosting a show. Eventually that led to having a nationally syndicated show. And it was a really wild ride. But what I would say the most important thing is, if you're looking to be a great host, is just the willingness to listen back to yourself and review your tapes and think, did I ask the right questions here? Did I present this topic the right way? Was my intro good enough? And how can I be better? And again, it's not like how can I be nasty about myself and beat myself up? It's just, how can I do a better version of this thing with my skill set? And that's really what it's about. And to be able to sit with professional radio hosts who had so many hours of airtime. I mean, when you're talking 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, like it's a lot of hours on the air. It's a lot of repetition. So these people were masters at it. And it was very cool to just see how they prepared for shows, how they approached trying to have the best topics. And it made me really good, really fast. And I was just willing to ask for help and judge, myself and push myself. So those are the two things. Ask for help when you can from people who get it. And from the other side, it's just do what you can to listen back to your tapes and be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and building on that, Vince, I'm curious, for anyone that wants to pursue podcast hosting as a full-time career, I'm wondering if you can dive deeper into the advice you would give to someone if they wanted to do this on a full-time basis, my friend.
Yeah, so to do it full time, I mean, it takes a lot of work, right? And you have to figure out what that model is financially to make it sustainable. And that's why a lot of times I've moved over to working with businesses, because as a business owner, you've got something to sell. And you're already doing that full time. Like this podcast and what you're doing as a host, it's complementing the day-to-day work. So on some level, that's cheating and doesn't even fully answer your question. I would say if you want to have an entertainment show and you want to do that, then yeah, it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of time. I mean, you just need to be really committed to the space that you're in, really committed to building a good show, finding ways to be creative and bring money in the door. Look at sponsorship rates and understand what kind of money you make when a show is sponsored and how many downloads you need and what that looks like, because it's a lot less than you think. And so if you're truly going to be a successful full-time podcaster, you have to have multiple revenue streams. And it's a major issue that people are dealing with right now. Like there's not really a clear blueprint if you're not getting hundreds of thousands of downloads on your show. So be smart, be adaptive, be innovative, work hard at the show. Try to be as good at it as you can, and find creative opportunities to promote it and do that at a low cost, because it's such a big part of the challenge, and money's always tight when it's a dream job that you have to build without a business behind it.
And just as a point of curiosity, my friend, I always tell people that ask me, why are you so successful at podcasting? And I always tell them a couple of things. And the first thing I tell them is get good at editing a podcast, right? Because sometimes people say things that need to be edited, and sometimes you gotta learn about attention span of people, right? So get good at editing. And I always tell people to be invested in the conversation, because people can tell when you're not authentic. Would you agree with that?
Oh, completely. Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, people just hear, you can hear people talk all the time, but when somebody's passionate about what they're doing and they're really engaged with it, it's clear. And that's part of what builds the connection. That's why people come back, because they're like, oh, this person cares about this thing and I care about this thing too. I want to only be around people that do care about this thing, So if somebody's not interested, there's somebody else who is, and I'll go find that person. So yeah, authenticity is everything.
Yeah, and I'm also curious, when you work with business owners, and you really, they may be wonderful people, but they also might be rigid conversationalists. So I'm curious, how do you break the ice and make someone that's good at operations a great conversationalist? I'm curious to get your answer there.
Yeah, I think part of it is people need some confidence to go and do it. They have it. They have that energy. They have more tone and variety in the way that they speak, but they're so used to speaking a certain way, and they're not comfortable opening up a little bit more. Because podcasting, like the way I talk on a podcast is different than I talk in an everyday conversation. Because if I'm this loud and using my hands all over the place, like my wife would hate me. So you have to have a balance of that. It is an art form. This entertainment way is an engaging way of speaking. So yeah, I think part of it is confidence. Part of it is I push people a lot of times very early on to be cartoonish. Like, hey, we're going to do this for 3 minutes. I want you to talk about this. I want you to be so over the top, like you're a game show host and you just have all the energy in the world. We're not recording this. Go. And then, to see what it's like when you push people to this really extreme, big boundary. And then it's like, all right, so now I want you to do a little more normal take, but give me some energy. You know what I mean? And you see there's this sort of middle ground that people can find that feels comfortable to them, but at the same time is more energetic. So yeah, if you're looking for a starting point, start there. Do something over the top. Don't feel like you have to record it at all. If anything, don't bother. And then from there, do it. But know that was your starting point. And the main thing that you'll come out with is going to be a little more natural, but more energetic at the same time.
Yeah, Vince, I've got a trio of questions left for you, my friend. And the first is, it's ironic that I'm having this conversation with you at the tail end of July, my friend, because July is National Disability Pride Month, buddy, if you didn't already know that. And I always find podcasting as an avenue and sort of atmosphere of inclusion for folks with disabilities, for a sense of belonging and connection, my friend. And it's also a great way, I think, for people with disabilities to find and locate work, because they get a chance to show their personality without being sort of judged because of their limitations or disability, my friend. So I'm curious how you connect the world of podcasting with the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective, and how people with disabilities can use it to advance forward, both economically, employment-wise, and also within their own lives as well. What are your thoughts there, my friend? I'm curious to get your answer there.
Man, what a great question. So one of the things is, and it's something we talked about earlier, the beautiful part of this is that so many different people are listening to shows now. And so when such a large part of the population has become invested in podcasting, it becomes that much easier to connect with the other kinds of people that you want to connect with. If that's other people who share the same disability as you, or people that are advocates for a certain cause, or businesses that are employers for certain kinds of people and activists in that sense. Like, there's so many ways to engage and build relationships. And that's what I love about podcasting is when you say, hey, we have a show that talks about this specific space, then you have the opportunity to listen to that show. Right. If you're just in the public, you can listen to that show and find other people that listen to that show and comment on things and build a conversation somewhere about a certain issue or share helpful information, whatever it might be. Like, that's really great. And then for the other side to say, hey, let's say I was advising somebody who had a show a couple of years ago in a small town in Canada, and they were talking about handicap accessibility. And the idea was, hey, I want to get people from the local government to come on the show and talk about ramps for certain buildings. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, like that's a good idea, But podcasting gives you that avenue. And I think everybody understands implicitly that podcasting can create unexpected opportunities. And so people are willing to come on and join those shows, even if they're not necessarily familiar with podcasts. A lot of people will say yes to being a part of it. So yeah, the ability to build real connections, to build real communities, to talk about specific issues, to connect people that otherwise would have never had the opportunity to talk to each other, or to have good information distributed based on experience, like life experience, like we've talked about. I mean, that's the beautiful thing of this. And so, yeah, I think that's part of why podcasting is so great, is because anybody can approach it and anybody can embrace it and build the kind of community that fits around them. Because when you talk about billions of people on the planet, I mean, enough people have things in common with you, and it's just finding the opportunities to really share that. So yeah, I think it's a great thing, and it's very viable.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Vince, I'm going to share just one more story about myself. So, Vince, I started my broadcasting career as a sports reporter, my friend, and I see the Eagles hat behind you, my friend, and I know that football season is right around the corner, and luckily for all of us, there's only a few more weeks until football season, and I'm a long-suffering Detroit Lions fan, but they're good now, Ben. So
yeah, they are good.
I can have a victory lap when I'm relishing in their victories for as long as I can, because it's been on the other side for too long. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on the Eagles' upcoming season, my friend, and why you're such a big sports fan, my friend.
Oh, man. Okay. So, yeah, growing up in Philly, I'm an absolute sports obsessive. I love football more than anything. I love players all around the league. Growing up as a kid, I had jerseys from players all around the league. I still have some jerseys from players all around the league that I've had for 25 years. So, yeah, I love football. I got to do sports radio in Philly, which is amazing. So I was just talking about the teams all the time. I was working at that station when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, and I was lucky enough to go to the Super Bowl last year and see them win in person. So, yeah, I mean, for me, sports is a great way or I guess I'll say sports has been a really pivotal part of the relationships that I've built over the years, the kinds of friends that I've made and conversations we've had, and playing Madden for fun, or having a catch. It's just like everything about sports is a vital social fabric. And so it's really important to have all that. And yeah, it's been a major part of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Sports brings people together from all walks of life, doesn't it?
It does. And that's a beautiful thing. And anybody that you go to, around the country, you see them wearing football gear, you can strike up a conversation and you never know where it goes. But it's cool to be able to have that.
Yeah, and what do you think about the Eagles' chances to repeat this year, my friend?
Oh, we're going back to back, Kevin. I want you to get ready. I mean, sorry, because I know you're a Lions fan, but I'm rooting for you guys if the Eagles don't win. But we're going back to back, man. We got it. We got everything ready to go. Great team, healthy, Everything's in our favor right now, and I'm ready to see him repeat.
Just keep Saquon Barkley healthy right now.
That's right.
Vince, my other question for you today has to do with legacy, my friend. It's how I end all of my podcasts. I do that because I believe that we're open on life to put our fingerprints of difference into the sand. So I'm curious to end our conversation by asking you, Bobby, how do you want your legacy to be defined? And if someone asked you to write the final sentence of your life, how do you think you would want that to read, my friend?
Man, I think on the simplest level, it's just that I was a good guy and it was a good time when I was there. Like that's really it. I mean, I've always liked helping people. I think it's really important to do. It's just how we all get by. We've all gotten anywhere because people helped us. And so to be able to do that for people and be a good friend, all of that's been really important to me over the years. So I want to do that. But also, if we're not having a good time, what are we doing? So it's always important to me to crack some jokes. And I've always been able to maintain relationships with people. So I still have friends from grade school, high school, college, my old jobs. Like it's just one of those things that's always been important to me. I just really care about people. And so, yeah, hopefully that's the legacy that I leave.
Vince is someone who's produced over 1,500 podcasts in the last 7 or so years, my friend. This was a delightfully wonderful conversation. But before I say goodbye to you, my friend, I want to know if people want to get connected with you. What's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, so easiest way, check out the podcast. I mean, I'm talking every single week. I'm doing my own thing over there and just talking about podcasting and strategy and everything else. So the show's called It's Not Just Talking, and that's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. And from the business side of things, if you want to connect, I'm on LinkedIn. That's my number one social media platform. So just look up for Vince Quinn and, look for the most handsome guy. That's going to be me out of all the Vince Quinns. Just pick that one. And I'll talk to you there.
Fantastic. Well, Vince, I thoroughly enjoyed getting a chance to meet you and engaging in conversation with you about a mutual passion of podcasting, my friend. I want to thank you for the good work that you're doing to promote the industry and the business side of things. And I want to thank you for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me. I said 1,200 episodes earlier, which is a complete disservice. 1,500 is amazing, honestly. I think that's incredible, and just to see the kind of work that you've done, I mean, the research, the stats, just the overall commitment to everything of putting a show together. This was awesome, man. So I appreciate you having me on the show, and thanks for having me.